Welcome to Make the Movie Already podcast. This podcast is for you, otherwise busy creatives who can't seem to find the time to finish or start your passion project. Join me on this journey, however long it takes, to get our projects done. Hello and welcome to today's podcast. This is Maria Rios, your friendly and sometimes frustrated filmmaker here, chronicling her experience of trying to make a documentary, seeing this documentary through to completion, while working a full-time job and being otherwise occupied with the trials and tribulations, love, joys, and fabulousness of being alive. So, welcome. Today we're going to talk about what happens when you hit a rough spot. This week, that rough spot for me is time. I'm actually on the clock now and have been kind of this weekend. So it's something I knew to expect during this season in my professional life. So the question becomes, how do you stay productive? How do you stay consistent when you feel like you have 10 minutes a day or 10 minutes a week to work on your creative project, in my case being a documentary film? So here we go. As you know or may not, if you're just listening now, if you've made it this far, I've been working on a documentary film, and for the past few weeks, actually, I've been working on pre-production. I'm going through a writing phase right now. I'm researching, and I'm also learning. I'm learning about story structure, and I'm putting what I learn into practice. And what that means specifically is that I've been developing a script for the film. But now, right this minute, I'm in a situation that I don't want to be in. As you may or may not know, I've been working on this project for a while, and for years, in fact, very slowly. And it came to a complete standstill. And so now I'm restarting the project. So as I've been working through this film in this pre-production phase, I've been consistent. But right now is very uncomfortable for me, simply because I'm not getting as much as I want to get done. And my eye is twitching even thinking about it. I'm on this mission to complete the film. So how am I going to handle this? How am I going to handle weeks like this? How am I handling this now? And so here's what I have to share. There's 3 things that I'm doing right now that are particularly helpful. So here are the 3 things. The first is I've prepared for this moment. I knew it would come. I'm starting this podcast. I've started this podcast and I'm working on this film. I decided to do both projects during a time I knew would be exceedingly busy for me. So I kind of scheduled in advance accordingly, right? So I'll leave it at that for a second. The second thing is that I've kept my project close. And the third thing is that I'm using this as an opportunity to make progress on the project by continuing to build my skills. All right, so let's get back to the notion of preparing for this, or really, this is about how advanced preparation will save your bacon during crunch times. So the most important part of planning in advance for me ended up being the time management, and coupling that or merging that with having a strategic plan about what to work on well in advance. So 10 weeks ago, in planning to do this podcast and in planning on reapproaching my project, And so I chose a part of the project well in advance that I knew I could do in 10 minutes a day or 10 minutes a week if I had to. So pre-production for me, the writing piece was completely missing. So in understanding my overall schedule and knowing that sometimes, when you have to, you can always take a notebook with you everywhere you go and still be working on a film. There it is. I'm managing to stay consistent. And it feels good, which is important. So time management, scrubbing your schedule to know exactly how much time you have to work on your creative priorities, but also thinking strategically about what you can reasonably do when you have very little time is what's working for me now. And let me tell you, I'm all about instant gratification. I've been really frustrated about not making as much progress as I want to, but there is something to be said about work that's getting done little by little. And I'm seeing that now. I'm documenting all of this. I'm making forward progress and being able to see it. So that's everything for me right now. Now let's get to number 2, which is keeping my project close. So I always have my hands on something related to the project. I've got my hand on a notebook. I've got my hand on the texts that I'm reading that are helping supplement and structure what I write. I am absolutely making time for it whenever I can spare a few minutes. I can afford to do that because I'm not in the middle of a shoot. Again, plan to work on pre-production, so there's a plethora of things I could be doing even if I weren't necessarily working on writing. But again, writing not only is very necessary for me to complete my project, but it is something that I can do to keep working on the film continuously, no matter where I am, no matter what I have going on. And also, folks, let's not forget something else. This podcast. At the very least, pre-production for this for the podcast itself is simultaneously pre-production for the film. So, for me, this is working. I've spent enough time with this medium, as imperfect as the result may be. It's been helpful to keep my hands in the project of the film. You cannot let go of it. Keep going. Keep going at all costs. So this is actually working quite well for me. I'm not sure how well this is working for an audience, but I'll get to it. Here I am, week 11. So, but really, this matters. This matters, but don't give up whatever you do. Don't give up the consistency. This is really key. And I'm telling you this, as I'm speaking from experience, because in working through this creative project, I'm working through fear and insecurity and uncertainty and learning and joy, bliss, all of it. And some of these things can be paralyzing sometimes, but consistency is key. And for me, this is what it looks like. It may not be, being on set and all the sexiness involved in filmmaking, but it's the work that needs to be done to get a film off the ground, word by word, piece by piece. Now, the third thing that's keeping me going during this very intense week is the fact that I am still working on building my skills. And what that means is that I am leaning into whatever opportunities present themselves this week to work on my filmmaking skills. So I'm in the lucky position of being able to work on videography projects during my full-time job. I don't get to do this all the time. It is seasonal, and luckily for me, that season is now. And I may not be behind the camera myself, but I do have I have direct involvement in building the content for the videos that need to be done. And so I dig in like I would, but it's an available opportunity for me. Even though the timing seems lean for my other project, I'm still working and lucky enough to be able to work on a set of skills that will help me develop my own creative voice and my own creative project. So that's great. Also, as luck would have it, a videographer reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you have X amount of time this weekend to help me out?" It's a very simple project, but videography nonetheless, experience with cameras that I don't typically work with. And this videographer was in a pinch, and yes, I said yes. So these are all experiences that are critical that I was lucky to have. And at the end of the day, that's what will get you through. You know, in thinking about it, the building your skills section that I just mentioned is really more about prioritizing my project and making sure that I have room to continuously learn regardless of what my schedule looks like. So I'm taking a minute to really actually maybe pat myself on the back. You know, I just realized that I'm doing something that in my heart I always wanted to do as part of the filmmaking process, but which is really being able to help another filmmaker when they need it. And for many years, I just haven't, felt smart enough or accomplished enough or brave enough to do that. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity, and this is pretty meaningful for me. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. So alas, the clock is ticking, and I think now is a good time to wrap up. I'd like to thank you, particularly my 3 subscribers, or my 5 subscribers, actually. 3 of them I don't know, so thank you. I'm very grateful to you, and I have you in mind as I do this. So thanks again for listening. On I go. It's a busy weekend. It hasn't ended, and I've got to run. Take care. Stay creative. I am on socials: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Make the Movie Podcast. So find me there, or Make the Movie Pod. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for listening. Stay creative, and we'll see you next time.